Welcome to the club, everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you a simple step-by-step lesson on how to draw a summer sunflower. For this lesson, we'll need a sketch pad and a pencil. I'm going to start off with this 0.7mm mechanical pencil with a 2B graphite stick. Now, if you don't have a mechanical pencil, anything you have around the house will work just fine. Now, the first thing we're going to do is set up our drawing with some guidelines. Let's start at the very top and the middle. Just going to lightly sketch a line coming down the center, coming all the way down towards the bottom of our page. Let's go back to the center and draw another line going across from left to right. And these lines are going to help us create a large circle in the center of our page. Now with our guidelines in place, let's start from the center point. We're going to move all the way up towards the top. It's going to mark off the top of our circle right about here. And then I want to measure that same distance from the center down towards the bottom. So right here, it's going to mark this off. Let's repeat that across this horizontal line. So measuring the distance from the center over towards the left and then the right side. Now we want to connect each of these points with a curve to create our large circle. So we start with the top left. Now this circle doesn't have to be perfect. We're just using this as a guide for the outside points of the petal. You can always just go back and just smooth this out as best we can. Now I'm going to draw a smaller circle in the center. So let's go about halfway, right about here. Work that off. Halfway along these 2 points, and then along the sides. And we're going to repeat that same process, connecting each of these points with another curve. You can just go ahead and just readjust the size. Now that we have both of our circles in place, I'm going to go back and lightly clean up these guidelines. I'm going to leave that one along the bottom for the stem. Now let's go ahead and start adding those petals. We're going to start at the very top in the center. We're going to leave a gap in the middle. Let's step over toward the left. We're going to give this a slight bend going out toward the left and up toward the top. Now this circle on the outside is just a guide, and we can go past that point if we'd like to. We want to stay relatively close to that line. It doesn't have to match perfectly. Now let's take that same petal along the bottom. And just extending this past that circle. Let's add another one along the sides. And now we're going to start to repeat this. We're going to go in between and add another petal. And again, we don't have to go right towards this line on the outside. We can go a little bit shorter. We can go a little bit longer. Just so that our sunflower doesn't look too symmetrical. Now we're going to do that one more time, adding another petal in between. There's a little bit of a gap in between each of these front petals. Now these are just guides. You don't have to get too perfect with these at this stage. We're going to come back and just clean these up after. And now we're going to add one in between. Let's go on the top left. Just adding these little points, going in between. And again, we can stretch some of these out a little bit longer. Add some shorter ones. But just working our way around, just filling in that gap. Now we're going to go back and just clean up those lines along the outside of those petals. Now I'm going to switch to the side edge of my 2mm pencil and just add a light shade to the inside circle. So let's start from the top left. And we just want to make this area a little bit darker than the petals. So we'll start with this base. Just lightly shading this in. And again, this shading doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to get that fill. I'm just going to add a rough, smaller circle in the center. And I'm just going to lightly shade that in a little bit darker. Maybe one tone darker in the center. Now I want to add some texture in that center circle. So we're going to start from the outside. Just going to lightly add these lines coming in toward the middle. Just adding that texture coming in. This little radial pattern. Now in that outer ring, we're going to add these little tiny circles. And we're just looking for the general texture inside, not getting too detailed with this. So you just want to fill up that entire area. Now in behind each of those circles, I'm just going to spend a little time adding a little bit more texture and shading. So just in between, just going to darken that up, sort of aiming our lines towards the center, so that these little circles are lighter than the rest of that ring. Now we're just roughly going in, don't need to cover everything. Let's go back and just darken up the outside of that center circle. Now extend some of these little circles coming outside with a tiny stem, just pulling that in. So I'm just breaking up that clean edge of that outer circle. So it looks a little bit more natural. We'll go back and just add a few random darker spots inside. And now we're going to go back to each of these petals and refine the edges. Just adding a little bit more shape and definition. And on the tip, just want to make this look a little bit natural, just taking out that sharp point and adding a little bit of a fold. So I'm going to add these little lines coming up from the base and a couple inside, just lightly adding these little textured lines. Now I'm just going to work our way around the radius of our flower. You see that I'm just modifying the shape of each of these petals. Also going in between. Now once we have the main petals in place, we're going to go down and add some detail to the stem. So I'm just going to add some thickness to that center line, just lightly going along the outside. Let's add a little leaf coming out. So a little stem going up and then out towards a point. Let's draw the bottom of the leaf. Going across and up. Give it a little curl coming down on the end. Going across the top of the leaf. Now we're seeing this leaf from the side. Pull that back down towards the bottom. Let's add one coming up on the right side. So we'll start with the stem, and then the center of the leaf. We're just going to bend this down towards us. Now along the top, bend this up and out on the left and right side. Curl this back in toward the center. Let's add one coming up in behind on the left. Now we're just going to go in and start adding some contrast and just refine the shape of those leaves. Now that we have a rough sketch in place, I want to go back and just soften up the textures inside those petals with my blending stump. So we start from the very top and just kind of lightly pull some of that darkness coming in from the tips. So you see I pulled some of that graphite across those petals. And this is a very subtle effect. I don't want to get too heavy with this. And we do the same thing in the opposite direction, starting from the center, pulling our way across and then out. And once we've done all of the petals, I'm going to go back and just add an extra layer of texture on top. I'm going to go back and do a little bit more cleanup in between each of those petals across the tips. Let's add that subtle layer of texture inside. And these lines coming from the base going up, and then from the tip coming down. And go back to the side edge of my 2mm pencil, add a soft shadow in behind those back petals. So going a bit darker across the base, and then just fading that up. And this technique is going to help bring some depth to our drawing. I'm just going to darken up the center, going around the outside perimeter. I'm going to add some tone to that stem and the leaves. So again, moving back to the side edge of our 2mm pencil, and just shading that in. Now as you get closer to the end, I'm just going to tighten up my shadows and details, and always be sure to sign my artwork, and that's pretty much it. There's a sketch illustration of a summer sunflower. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Please be sure to subscribe for more sketch videos just like this. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.